Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rowdy Player One channel. I am Rowdy, and today we have the Book Awards of 2024. Let's give a round of applause to all these fantastic books that I read this year. We've got 10 categories that we are going to go with. We're going to start off maybe with a downer and then go up, and then maybe another downer and then go up. So we're going to have a bunch of different categories, a bunch of different things. I'm going to have 3 nominees and 1 winner in each one, and all the way down to my book of the year. And I am extremely excited to get to do this. I'm pumped, to say the least. So without further ado, let's start the show. I mean, it's an award show, baby. Let's do it. All right, first up, we have the biggest disappointment of the year. This right here consists of books that I heard were really good, and they ended up not being for me at all. So, biggest disappointment of the year. The first one is Elantris. Did not like this book at all. Could not stand it. It just was super boring to me. And that's about it. It was boring. I didn't like it. Can't help it. Sorry. Number 2, The Sunlit Man. Yes, that's 2 Brandon Sanderson books. And you're going to catch a theme on some of this. There's a lot of Sanderson in here on a bunch of different things just because I read his whole Cosmere this year. But The Sunlit Man, I didn't like it that much. It was okay. We'll say that it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like Elantris. But I don't know. I didn't really care about the environment and what went on with the story. I don't know. It wasn't really my thing. And then finally, Babel or Babel. Let's just say we'll start this off. The winner or loser is Babel or Babel. This is the only DNF I had this year. I had some books I didn't care for, but this thing was terrible, and I hated it with a passion. It was super boring. I highly suggest you trying it for yourself, we'll say that, but it's not really my thing. All right, the next category, the best indie book. We have 3 fantastic indie books this year. We're going to go with Sledge by Nick Horvath. Absolutely loved this book. Hilariously funny, brutal. Sledge is a human tank who cannot die, basically. It was fantastic. I loved this book. I did not laugh out loud in any book more than this one. It was just wonderful. We have Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. Gut-wrenching, sad horror novel. It gave me nightmares. I nearly cried over Kate, the character, she just, hurt my heart. We'll say that. And then finally, The Envoys of War by Dave Lawson. This book was fantastic. Corden and Jen, these 2 on the cover, great. Corden's hilarious. He was super funny in this book, always trying to connive his way out of situations, thinking that he could talk his way out of anything. And Jen is just, point me in the direction and I'll handle it. So the winner of Best Indie Book is Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. This was one of the best books I've read this year. I absolutely loved this book. It's fantastic. All right, so then we go to Worst Character. This is going to hurt some people's feelings. First, we have Shallan from the Stormlight Archive. I just grabbed The Way of Kings because it's the first book, but I did not like her in any book except for Words of Radiance. I think that's right. Wasn't a fan. Like she's not even in this one that much, but in The Way of Kings, but the others, the first two were probably the best for her in my opinion, and the last three, eh, not a fan at all. She's just it's too much. Multiple personalities, multiple just I don't know. I did not like her. Didn't like it. Number two would be Mai from the Goblin Emperor. Did not like that character neither. It was the main character of the book, and that made it even worse. It that's super. It was super boring. I mean, it's a everyday day in the life of an emperor, and Mai was the main protagonist. I couldn't hardly. I can't even believe I finished it. To be honest, it was so boring. I don't even know why I did, but and I definitely didn't care for Mai. Number three is Lift from the Stormlight Archive. Did not like her neither. The two, I guess you'd say too childish would be my thing with her. I didn't like her jokes, trying to be like she's funny all the time or attempts to be, and says a lot of dumb stuff in my opinion. It didn't hit for me. Some people love her and that's cool. There's a couple of spots where I didn't mind her. Probably book 3, Oathbringer is probably, would that be right? Yeah, I think so. Oathbringer, she's halfway decent at the very end. Other than that, it's a hard no for me. Not my favorite. And then supposedly she might be one of the main characters in book 6 of the Stormlight Archive. Maybe I'll turn around in 7 years when it comes out. Who knows? But she was not my cup of tea. We'll say that. So the winner of worst character, I'm gonna have to go with Shalon, which that's probably a loser too. But she's in the book way more than Lift. I can get over some of Lift, but Shalon just, oh boy, I was not a fan. I just can't get over the multiple personality stuff and constantly switching back and forth. It was just terrible to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't help it. It was so bad. All right. Then we have Best Series. Now, this is going to be a problem because I put this as Best Series that I completed. So if it's completed, then I counted it. Most of these I did not complete, or well, of a lot of them. So I have Mistborn Error 1, Mistborn Error 2, and the Stormlight Archive. And all of them were good. Mistborn Error 1 was probably my favorite of the first two Mistborn errors. I liked all 3 books. Loved the first one and the third one. The second one was okay. It was a whole lot more political. Mistborn Error 2, I didn't really care for the first 2 books, but the last 2 books were really good. And then the Stormlight Archive, first book was, I feel like, the weakest. Loved the second book. Really loved this third book. Didn't care for the fourth book, and the fifth book was pretty good. So I'm going to say the winner of that is the Stormlight Archive. I enjoyed it probably the most. It had way higher highs, way lower lows, but the highs in it, just dealing with the depression and all this other stuff that Sanderson put in this series, just really, really was a lot better. It was more thought provoking and just has you thinking about a lot of things, like even in your own life, on what you think of, how do you deal with different things, like I said, it's probably multiple personalities and different things like that. Like it was really good. So the winner, of course, the Stormlight Archive. Then we have my most emotional read. So I took this as anything. It could be funny, it could be sad, just whatever. What pulled the most emotion from you. And we have got Dungeon Crawler Carl, who probably made me laugh the most out loud at just the bombastic craziness that book was. I did that on audiobook, and listening to Jeff Hayes do the characters was nuts, to say the least. So good. So, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Number 2 was Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. This one right here was right the opposite. This gave me nightmares, made me sad, made me really root for the other characters, which were great. I mean, Nick and Kate were fantastic, but Kate, well, stuff she had to go through was awful. And so that's what really got me with emotion-wise with this. And then Sledge. Sledge was about the same thing, nearly as much as Dungeon Crawler Carl. I mean, it hilariously funny, but brutal. Like the stuff that Sledge does to these people and the things that happen to Sledge. It's laugh out loud funny how this man is still alive after all this stuff. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's crazy. And it made me laugh out loud just a ton. I loved that book. So the winner of the most emotional read is, let me find it here, Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. I've never had a book give me nightmares before. That's all I can say. It messed me up. And man, it was so good, so emotional. It brought everything out of me. I mean, I love this book. It was so awesome. Then, best first book in a series. So all of these I've read the first book to start the series. I've not read, there's one of them, which you'll find out that I've read the 2 books, but the others I will be continuing this year, but this is the first book, so I'm going to take it as that. So first book, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Again, I actually read the first 2 of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series and loved them both. They're both fantastic, hilariously funny. Can't wait to continue on, without a doubt. Number 2 is, let me pull them out right here, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I loved this book, and I now have all the other 5 more, and obviously we're waiting on Red God, and I know it's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. Like Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 3, I will eventually get to audiobook it for sure, but this one right here, I've got them all, and Golden Sun, which is book 2 of this, will be started very soon in 2025. So that's that one. And the other one is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Finished book 1, of course. Absolutely loved it. My first grim dark book. It was great. And I've got book 2 and book 3 over on the shelf. And cannot wait to finish this first trilogy, because I heard it gets even better as this one first trilogy goes. And then got all the standalones, of course, and then the next trilogy. So can't wait to continue on with all of these. Like was not disappointed at all with this. But the winner of the best first book in a series is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Laugh out loud hilarious. I mean, trust me, I love all 3 of these, like nearly equal. I mean, they're all so good. But Dungeon Crawler Carl is just so good. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, some people don't like audiobooks, and some people might not like the humor in it, but doggone I do, and he nails it. And I can't wait to continue on book 3 through, what is he up, 7 now, or 7's fixing to come out. So good, so good. All right, then we have the best character in a series. Or, well, just my best character, not in a series, but the best character that I read this year. First one, Sledge. How could you not? I mean, this dude is crazy. Everything that he does, just surviving literally everything. That final battle, I still cannot get over how good it was. I mean, it's unbelievable. No, just bombastic and hilarious on how he survived it. But Sledge is the first one. Number 2 is Princess Donut from Dungeon Crawler Carl. She is absolutely hilarious. I mean, the way Jeff Hayes just reads her is so funny. It's like, hello, Carl, come in. And it blows my mind on how it becomes this princess who has all the power, in the world with what she does, and how she upgrades her abilities and all. It's so good. And finally, Kaladin from the Stormblessed Archive. It's my favorite character. This is my favorite character in the Stormlight Archive for sure. Like, I really, really liked Kaladin. I think he's fantastic. Him dealing with depression and all of that entails, and just like nearly basically killing himself early on in book 1 to where he gets to by the end of the first act of the Stormlight Archive, book 5. Like, it's crazy on how good how much, not good, but how far he goes to get to where he is. And it's great. The winner, though, of best character is Sledge. Can't get over it. He's great. Everything about him. It's funny, brutal. Love it. Get it. All right. Best author of the year. We have Brandon Sanderson, who I read the entire Cosmere. It was great. Obviously, I read it. I think it's fantastic. We have Matt Dinniman, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Absolutely loved it. Both those books are fantastic. So the reason that I picked like them two were because, for one, Stormlight, I've read a ton of Sanderson this year, way more, like 10 times the amount of anybody else. And Matt Dinniman, first 2 books were fantastic to me. So it's hard to not put them on. And then, of course, Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. Great. Molly's a heck of a writer, especially this her debut. Come on. Like, this is nuts on how good of a job she did. Fantastic. So, the best author of the year goes to Brandon Sanderson. Why would it not? He gives you everything. I've read everything there is in the Cosmere, all, heck, how many books? Like 19 or 20? I don't even remember now. It's just, he's got so many hits. Now, of course, there's some downs. I didn't care for, obviously, Elantris or Sunlit Man, and there's more. Warbreaker wasn't my favorite, Edge Dancer, but his highs are so good, and he has so many. Like, I liked all of the Stormlight Archive. I loved 2 of those books. And same thing with both Mistborn era books. Love 2 of the 3 of Era 1, love 2 of the 4 of Era 2. And then, like most of the the standalones. it's hard not to say. I mean, Sanderson's the GOAT. I mean, at least right now he is. So, author of the year, Brandon Sanderson. 2 more categories. Next up, the biggest surprise of the year. First, the blade itself. I truly thought this was going to be, which grimdark, but I thought it was going to be way darker than it was. Like, I was expecting just terribleness through it. Like, I thought this book would be great, but I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read it because I'm afraid it's going to be super dark. And it wasn't. I really thought it would be way worse than it was. So I was very pleased to find out that it wasn't and loved every bit of it. Glocked is the man. That's all there is to it. Number 2, Elantris. This was so bad. I could not stand this book. Like, and that's what surprised me. Like, I realized it was his first book that he ever got published. And I really thought that I would enjoy it. Like, a lot of people really like this book. And it's just not for me. Like, nothing got me with it at all. I did not enjoy it. And the third one is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. That come out of the blue. I was not expecting it to be that good, for it to be about, especially about writing. I mean, who would think that? You know, it's an author who is friends with a super famous author who everything she touches or writes turns to gold. #1 bestseller. And this other girl who you're following is like struggling and can't get anything that's great, you know, like nothing hits or whatever. So turns out something happens to her, she steals her manuscript and puts it out and becomes the #1 bestseller, and then tries to figure out how to deal with that. Could she tell the truth that she stole it? She did make changes to it. It was really interesting, and I was curious if I would like it, but I ended up really enjoying that book. It was really good. So, biggest surprise. This is going to Elantris because of how good it was supposed to be and how bad it actually was. I couldn't stand it. There's nothing about this book is super boring to me and did not enjoy whatsoever. So, biggest surprise, Elantris. So, finally, we are down to the book of the year. There are 3, without a doubt, front runners in this series, in this whole thing. Like, I had a bunch of really good reads this year, and a bunch that were, or well, not a bunch. I had a few that were just so, a couple of terribles, but there was 3 that stood above and beyond everyone else. And those are Dark Bloom by Molly McCobb. What else can I say? Buy this book. It's unbelievable. Sledge by Nick Horvath. Same thing. 80s action. Hilarious. Funny. Get it. And Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. Book 2 of the Stormlight Archive. And all 3 of those are deserving of my book of the year. Like, I absolutely loved all 3 of them. Sledge is funny. It's action-packed. It's brutal, just brutal and good. Dark Bloom is sad and depressing and just the horrors. I mean, it's a horror novel, but the horrors that Kate, the main character, has to go through, and then having to deal with zombies on top of all that. And then the Stormlight Archives, Words of Radiance, book number 2, just how much Kaladin goes through everything, and you know, him and Seal get closer in a bond, and then Shallan's actually good in the book, and then of course, you know, Adelin's getting better. Dalinar is fantastic. They're all just great. That's all I can say. But I have to have a winner, and this was tough. This was really tough. But my winner of the book of the year is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I just all around emotions on this. It was just, I mean, it hit everything. I loved it so, so much. And Oathbringer got decently close, but other than that, there's nothing that's compared to this, as far as especially in the Stormlight Archive or anything else I've read this year. So, your winner, Book of the Year, Words of Radiance. But yeah, that's what I got on the awards for 2024. What's your favorite book of the year? Do you disagree with me on any of these? Because I'm sure some of you will, and you might like some of these characters that I couldn't stand or these books. Or you might totally agree, which would be awesome. But what's your book of the year? What other categories you think I should add later on? Do you have something you would suggest? If you would, like the video. It helps out and lets it go out into the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. And y'all have a fantastic rest of the new year. And hopefully 2025's awards get even bigger and better. And you all, just like me, read nothing but 5-star reads this year. I'm very excited about it. Looking forward to 2025. Other than that, y'all have a great day. Bye.